So
Yeah.
when we're young, it is the community around us that shapes and creates us, right? At a point, though, as an adult, we begin to be the person who shapes and creates ourselves. All of our programs that are not in the Apogee schools are about helping you to take responsibility to the next level of leadership inside yourself. You can't lead someone else if you can't lead yourself.
Hmm.
You can't lead your family if you can't lead yourself. You can't lead your community if you can't lead your family. You can't lead anything bigger than your community if you can't lead your community, right? And being a good leader means also you can follow when you're not the leader. That's fine. It's not about like chaos. This isn't about like I'm free, I can do what I want. Well, that's great, but that isn't true. That's not how real leadership works. That's not real community. I can do what I want is childish. It's a lack of leadership, right?
Welcome to the Parenting Wisdom Podcast. Today I have Coach Kevin with us from Apogee Strong. And I'm really thrilled about this episode because I only learned about Apogee like 2 weeks ago from a friend because we have a new Apogee school that opened here in New Jersey. And that just makes me so happy because we have already 2 actons, or actually 3 actons here in New Jersey. We have another micro school and we have another school that my kids go to that is the Awakened Village Collaborative. And they're all more or less the same model. So I'm so happy that our kids have great alternative to public school nowadays. And I feel like these schools are opening, more and more every year. And it's just so exciting to me. So why don't you start, Kevin, by introducing yourself and just introducing what is Apogee in general?
Sure. I'm Coach Kevin Wazan. I am the COO at Apogee Strong LLC. And Apogee is our mission is to reseed freedom through education. We really want to go back to old school education. We're not the, excuse me, we're not the experiment. The experiment has been really this public school system that we've had for the last 150 years, which, started, I think, with really good intention, but has ended in a conveyor belt school system that's trying to push everyone into the same pegs, and it just doesn't make any sense. Like we are all individuals. So it's the one thing that we do share is we're all unique, and pushing everyone down the same conveyor belt of school just doesn't work. And so at Apogee, we're dedicated to finding the solution. Like we don't want to just identify problems. We don't want to just say, "Oh, that's bad," right? We're more solutions oriented. So when we saw this problem with the public education system, then we decided to create a solution that works, that can have children actually thriving, and at the same time gaining all of the skills and knowledge that they need to be absolutely successful adults.
That's awesome. So, from my understanding, it's much more than a school, right? You have many different programs. You have programs for women and for men, and you have an online program. So, can
Sure. I
you
mean,
just
yeah,
break
for
down what
sure.
are the different options? What are the different programs that you have in Apogee?
Sure. I think we have a dedication at Apogee to education, not to school. Right. And I think this
Okay.
whole concept of school, when you really break it down, if you think about what school means, and we're 3 generations in the United States, or maybe more, 4 generations of compulsory school. School typically means it's the place that you go and you have to go to learn stuff that matters. Right. But when
Hmm.
you really look at what school is this almost like alternate game. There's the game of life and then there's the game of school. And if you're really good at school, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at the game of life. But if you're really good at school, you end up being really good at school. And so, one of the things I think is really important is that we're really trying to get back to old school education, which is preparing you for life. And if
Hmm.
we're preparing you for life, like in school, you have grades. You're in the 5th grade, or you're in the 7th grade, or you're in the 8th grade, right? In life, there are no grades. Like I'm not in the 50th grade, right? I turn 50 next week. I'm not in the 50th grade or the 45th grade because we all start at 5, right? That doesn't make any sense when you think about it in life. And so, of course, our education program is going to be for our young leaders, whatever developmental level they're at, but also for our parents and for anyone. Like we have an Apogee Strong, so we have an Apogee program called Apogee Man. We have Apogee Woman. Those are adult programs. They're personal development programs to like get you thinking about your life growing, moving forward to get the life that you want to live on purpose, right? Um, then we also have Apogee Strong Young Man and Young Woman. So these programs are targeted specifically at young men, young women aged 12 to 18. These are young men and young women trying to define, hey, who am I going to be, right? They're growing up, they're getting to that developmental stage where it's time to start taking responsibility for their own life. And we have mentorship programs to help them figure out who is it that they want to be and how do they use their voice and how do they become a man or a woman in a meaningful way in today's world. And then we also have Apogee schools, right? We have Apogee schools all around the US. We're up to just over 150 right now. And we're
Yeah.
looking for more partners all over, which this is what you alluded to first. And then we have Apogee Anywhere, which is our home education program. So you can take the curriculum, the different project-based learning styles that we have at an Apogee school and implement it in your home with your children if you're far from one of our campuses.
Wow. That is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So what would you say are the main values that are um, in common in all those different programs that you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty it's pretty simple. We live by a code, right? I mean, this is we live by a code at Apogee. It's not a new code. It's not something that we made up. It's just the Bushido Code. It's one of the oldest codes that exists, right? We live on integrity. We live on courage, on respect, on honor, compassion, honesty, and politeness. We also embody loyalty, right? So we live by this old warrior creed, by the Bushido Code, and that is what unifies us all. Really, a commitment to integrity, to loyalty, to honesty, compassion, bravery, but also we have a commitment to the entire family. We reject the notion that like school is for kids and life is for adults, and we separate those two things. Of course, the best way to educate a child is to have him follow along with the parents. This is what we've done for however many thousands of generations we've existed. I mean, we can call it mentorship, but that's just how people learn. Right?
Yeah.
I learned to do what my dad did because I was standing next to my dad while he did it. And then over time, I got to be big enough to hold the tools. And then over time, I got to be big enough to do it when he wasn't standing there with me. And
Yeah.
and that's education. Right now, we
Hmm.
can we can layer it, we can do all sorts of things. What's happened is the education system has become a lot like the commercial market system where everything is becoming hyper specialized, right? So we have I don't know if it falsely said, well, everything has a subject. Well, there's this subject, there's that side, but that isn't really how life works.
Yeah.
It just isn't like, and it's funny because my youngest son, so my oldest four children went to public school. They're all either graduated from or in college, and they killed it. I mean, they were great at school, they excelled in school, and they did great in university. My youngest son is at an Apogee school doing something totally different because I realized that my oldest kids were successful despite the school system because we parented
Mm.
the other direction so
Hmm.
hard to say, hey, here's how you maintain your independence and satisfy a system that forces uniformity. We coached them, we parented them through that. With my youngest, I don't have to do that. And it's really funny because my youngest, if I ask him, like, hey, did you do any math today? No. Okay, well, you didn't do math today. How come? Like, well, won't do math, Dad. But then I'll be like, what'd you work on? Oh, I'm working on my business. Let me show you how much it costs me to make a 3D printed item and then how much I'm going to sell it for. And here's what the profit is. And if I do 100 of those, now you may have noticed that's a whole lot of math, but he doesn't think of it as math. So he
Yeah.
doesn't hate it as math. He just knows this is how he's planning his business. This is how he's planning his life. And so it's really fun to watch him not have subjects and just be good at things. Right. He doesn't, I don't, if I say, did you do reading? He'll laugh at me, be like, do reading. What does that mean? I read books. Yeah. Here's the book I read.
Yeah.
But in my mind, learning is this weird subject laced thing, but life's just not like that. It just isn't. And so we're really about preparing kids for life, real life, and kids of all ages. Kids from age 3 to 93 can benefit from an Apogee program.
Yeah. You know, I think about the code that you talked about, the Bushido Code, right? And and preparing them for real life. And I think, parents think that sending their kids to school is preparing them for real life, but it's actually preparing them for a very specific way of life. If specifically they want to go to college, maybe it will prepare them for that. Maybe. I'm not sure anymore even. Um Maybe it can prepare them for an academic way of living. Maybe, right? That's not even true anymore either. And I do think that the school is actually, I mean, myself being outside of the school system for forever. I mean, my kids were never inside the school system. I don't even see anymore the advantage of our kids going to public school at all. Um, but you're talking, so the value system that you're talking about, it's it's not any life. I mean, it's hard for me to explain. I feel like it's a life of leadership. It's a life of
Yeah.
responsibility, right? And that's not the choice of every person. And I think that's actually the biggest problem in our society right now, that children just feel, or people just feel, that they're gonna go through some kind of program, right? And just put a check mark, or on, I did, I went to this school, I went to that college, I did this degree. But actually, what are the skills that you have? Um, what did you learn? Did you just go through the motions, or did you get something out of it for your life? And I feel
Well,
like
is
when
it
we
is it useful? Can you do something with it? Like, our students don't fulfill a curriculum and say, "Hey, they passed this curriculum and they could take this test." Our students have a portfolio. Here are the projects that I did. Here is the trebuchet I built. Here is, the skateboard that I made. Here is the cookies that I made, and here's the money it cost me to cook those, and here's the much money I took in, and here's my profit and loss statement. It's I think that what happens is school has become kind of this like self-licking ice cream, or this dog chasing its own tail where, well, if I'm successful here. Now, there may have been a time, and I'm not saying that school's totally useless, because again, if you're going to be a doctor, you're going to go to higher learning, and that's important. But if you look at how the doctor's path is different, like, if you're gonna be a surgeon, when you're in residency, your day doesn't look like a kid in school. You're not sitting in a desk studying about surgery. You're out there with the doctor, seeing things happen, getting that practice, right? And it's a practice. What we're doing is returning to that doing. It's leadership. It's leadership on purpose. It's teaching that's what we call our students, what you would call students in a school, is leaders. They're young leaders. Like, hey, here's how you lead. Here's how you get things done, right? Here's how to be free. Remember, our aim is to receive freedom through education, but with freedom comes responsibility. And so that
Mhm.
means, if you're to us, a leader is someone who accepts both freedom and responsibility. It isn't just I did this, so I get that.
Yeah,
It's I want to create that, and here are the things I think I need to do, and then I'm gonna find out what's different along the way until I'm touching that, until I have that, until I've
yeah.
created that.
Yeah. So they decide what their end goal is, and they figure out a way to get to that end goal. Whereas in a school system, it's imposed on them, right? You have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to study to this exam and get a certain grade, and then it means that you are qualified for something, I guess.
Well, I
So
don't
it's
know what I
imposed
don't know
on
what it
them.
means, because I've gotten tired of hiring college grads, if I'm honest. Out of 10 that I've hired, 1 has worked out, because they seem to have this feeling of like, "Well, I did this, so I get that." It's like, well, that's not how the real
Oh
world
yeah.
works. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
made an
Yeah.
ad and I put it on Facebook so people should give me money. No, people might not like your ad, or people might not like your product. Like, there's much more to it than just I did this and therefore that, right? It's
Absolutely.
especially in the world of business. But yeah, and I think with Apogee, we're a really interesting hybrid too, because fully learner led sounds great on paper, and I really do. I really have been blown away by what my son will grab onto for himself. It really is true that by default we're curious and we'll learn amazing things. Oh, but purely learner led can have its own issues because there really are certain skills we need to have. I tell my son this all the time. I'm like, reading and math. You're always going to use that your whole life. Like when I'm 90, I'll want to read something and I'll need to do math to figure something out, right? So there are some core skills. So our model is really um, our students, our leaders have the ability to drive everything on them for themselves, but with mentorship and with some structure. So we become kind of these bumpers around around the student who has a lot of choice. One of the things that typifies an Apogee campus as well is that the family is included. There's no you're not signing a piece of paper that says, "I'll let my kid do everything and I'll never be involved." No, of course not. I mean, the family is included as a whole family learning experience, right? I mean, I honestly, I'm learning a ton of things from my young leader right now, um, because he has these interests that I just don't have. I've never thought
Yeah.
about certain things, and so he comes home and we dig into it together, and it's kind of fun. Like our whole family is learning now, because of that. And I don't also think that people really understand how the traditional school system holds people back. So I think it's easy to look at it and show the big problems, right? My son, we took him out of school. He finished the third grade. We took him out of school for some travel for the fourth grade, and that was our first experience with Apogee was over the fourth grade. And he has been interested to see like, well, where am I in my math? Right? I'm curious personally as a dad. Well, hey, did he go backwards in math? Did he go forward? And of course, my head is kind of poisoned by the system I grew up in. So I have this imaginary thing, these imaginary thoughts about grade levels as if grade levels matter, right? I mean, what grade level? I would encourage any parent who really thinks it's important for their kid to stay on grade level to go take a test to find out where you are grade level wise in math. Because I promise you, my 10-year-old can do math better in his head than me or my wife at this
Yeah.
point. Um, but go look, go find out where's your grade level. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Like, but what I noticed because initially I thought, well, if I don't push him at math, he's not going to be good at it. But what I've actually found is he gets really interested in something and learns it. And he did the fourth grade math curriculum I gave him because I was worried. Well, what if he's behind? Here's some cricket. He did the whole curriculum in like 2 months.
Yeah.
So because he was interested and just finished. And it was funny. I'm like, hey, how's this math stuff I gave you going? Oh, it's done. There's nothing left to do. And I thought that's impossible. Like that was an entire year of work. So of course I logged into his account and I go look and yeah, sure enough, there's like nothing. And I'm like, well, heck, what happened to the other 7 months? Like if he was in school and he did that, he would still have to just sit there for 7 months and do nothing. Like, I, wait, that's crazy. And it is kind of crazy to think that we all learn everything at the same speed. Of course, other parts of his life he's going to be slower at. I mean, he just
Uh-huh.
happens to be really good at math and he likes it but again, that's everything. I mean, that's why we educate each child where they are, not ex not assume everybody is the average, right? I mean, look at our medical system. It's not too different. We've come up because of statistics or whatever, and we're medicating to what? The average. Well, who's the average? Not me, not you, not anybody. So we have these average statistics that tell us that on average these things do really good things, but no person is actually the average. Like you've got to treat the person who's there, not the average. Right, if you give me, shoes that are made for the average person as a 6'4" person, that's not gonna work. I'm not the average, but you could say, "Yeah, but on average, most people are this size." But the truth is almost no one is that size. No one is
Yeah.
the average size, that's just the average of all sizes. And I think
Yeah.
that with Apogee Schools, it's the same way. Rather than trying to teach to some average or trying to have people achieve an arbitrary standard, we say, "Hey, who are you? How far can you go?"
Right. And I think, they're teaching the average student and they're also creating average people and they're creating mediocre people. One of the issues that my husband had in his last job, he was a CFO in a big company. And he was so frustrated because he got he tried to hire people to do a hopefully a good job, and they had amazing resumes, but none of them, yeah, and they went to the best colleges, and on paper they have all the skills they need. But then they started to work and like they couldn't solve simple problems, and they didn't have just like the creativity in order to think differently about a solution, or just take responsibility on something, or just do their job from the beginning to the end, and not have him needing to micromanage every step that they took. And I feel like when our kids are just in the public school or go to college, because they're being micromanaged all the time, they don't learn how to manage themselves. They don't learn how to get at a problem and find a solution to it in a creative way. It's just not taught. Um, but I want to go back to this point about college, because that's something that many parents are asking themselves and are worried about. So kids that go through programs like this, like Apogee or Acton or other micro schools, does that affect their ability to go to college afterwards if they
It
do want to go to?
It does. It does. And let me tell you something that we have. So we just created a new docu-series that the first 2 episodes are out now. The first three will be out by the end of this week. And we're just going to keep going. I think there'll be at least 10, maybe 15 episodes. One of our
Oh,
episodes
great.
is what about college,
Mm.
right? Because doesn't this affect here we have a campus in Virginia right now where 50% of the kids, including a 10-year-old, are enrolled in college classes while they're still in school.
That's awesome.
Why? Because they're able to do it. Because literally they're capable. It's just that the other system has held them back. Where 75% of their kids are graduating with some form of college credit, most of their kids get accepted into like they actually finish what we would call like what the traditional school would call high school. We right like when basically they're 16 to 17 years old and finishing up. Most of the kids at this campus are actually they already have their associate's degree at that point. So they're finishing school with it. So they don't even apply to a college as a new student. They apply as a transfer student with 2 years of college already behind them, right? It opens a world to colleges. Because when you go to a college with again a portfolio of what you've done, it's so much easier to get in than it is to say, well, here's all the boxes that I checked, and here's my test scores, and here's my, and sometimes the test scores don't matter, and sometimes they do matter, and it's silliness. Like we have tricked ourselves. I remember um, I heard, I think it's Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, saying, that ChatGPT 5 can score a perfect score on the SAT and the ACT, and he said, which makes me realize how much those tests are not a score for real, actual intelligence. It was
Mm,
interesting to hear the guy who's got the
very
AI, who's
much.
passing it now, saying, "Man, maybe this exposes that these tests aren't an actual measure of intelligence." Because as great as ChatGPT 5 is at certain tasks, it's not real bright right now compared to most of us. Yeah, it's super good at recalling information or going search things really fast. Great. But it's not very bright. It just isn't. I mean, it's not even close to what the average person is. It can kill the SAT, it can kill the ACT. Does that mean that it's a great effective person? I think we've seen over and over and over again that that isn't the case. I mean, look, go look this up. Don't take my word for it. The person who invented the standardized test, there was a need for a standardized test, right? Once we had compulsory school, we had to figure out how do we put everyone in the right grade. Because now that we've created grades, we have to know, well, what's the right classroom? Because all of these kids are coming from single classroom environments, and we're going to put them into this new thing called grades. We needed a test, a standardized test to say, okay, well, what level are people at? Standardized tests are really good at that. They're really good at a very snapshot, like a, hey, here's where you are this minute, kind of an analysis, right? So that test was created. The person who invented the test was later fired from his university presidency for refusing to administer standardized tests because he himself said these were
Mhm,
never supposed to measure intelligence. They
mhm.
were just to show us where to put people in this one instance. They are not a measure of success or intelligence, right? But later he gets fired for not being willing to administer the test he invented. Why? Because we were using it for something it wasn't intended to do. We have a generation of kids who think they're dumb because they can't get 1,200 out of or 1,400 out of 1,400 or whatever number we're at in the SAT, and it has nothing to do with success in life. Nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to um stress this for all the parents out there. Yes, they will be able to get into college if they want to. They will actually even be able to get into college much earlier than they would have if they were going to the regular school. And this,
If you're I wanna just break it. If you're a
yeah.
parent who is worried about your kid getting an edge and getting ahead, why do you have them sitting in classes for an entire year when they've learned the material in months? We had a young leader from one of our campuses who wanted to, he was self-conscious because he had always been in an Apogee type environment, an alternative school, and he said, "Well, look, when I get to college, I want to have completed the K through 12 curriculum."
Hmm.
And we were like, "Well, you don't have to." He's like, "No, no, no. I want to because everyone else will have done it, and I'm afraid that I'm gonna feel dumb if I didn't complete it." So of his own volition, he decided to take K through 12 curriculum. So he found a program online that did like a program. He said, "Okay, let's go through it all." And he started at 1st grade all the way up. Why? Because he just wanted to be able to say, "I've finished everything."
Yeah,
Right? It 1st grade through 12th grade took him less than a year. It was like 7 or 8 months. So what happened to
I
the other
believe it.
12 years?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you want your kid to have an edge, stop limiting them. Don't hold them back. Let them go. Go see what they can do. I am blown away by what my kid is doing. Blown away. I never ever I always thought, well, he'll be happier, he'll be more fulfilled, and he'll be a little behind academically, but that isn't the case at all.
No.
He's keeping up with reading. He's not great at reading, but he's not terrible. He's right where you would want him to be. But he's so far ahead in math. I'm having a hard time keeping up. Like I'm a 50-year-old man. I'm having a hard time keeping up with my 10-year-old. I didn't have that problem with my older kids. Is that because they're dumb? Or is that because they sat without progressing for an entire year on a subject that I could handle? And then they move forward and then they sat without really progressing on a subject they could handle for like I realize now that they were being held back.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's actually studies done about this. I just have this book right on my desk, which is called Free to Learn by Peter Gray.
Mm.
And this book is from probably 2000, I don't know, 10. And back then, like 15 years ago, he already had studies that show that kids who are in control of their own learning, many of them go to college, and not only do they go to college, they finish college. Because we tend to look at how many kids start college, but we don't look at how many kids actually finish college. And many kids drop out of college actually. um, and then I'm thinking about another book that I read, which is called How Kids Succeed. And in this book, it talks about how it's important to not only get them ready to start college, but finish college. And the way to do that is by developing in them character traits. And those character traits are very similar to the ones that you talked about in the beginning, you know. So I think that it's much more important to focus on developing character traits in our children and not just their academic abilities, because the academic abilities will come. And as you say, AI can do most of that already. So I spent so many years on learning academic abilities when, first of all, AI can do it much better than us. I mean, I do think that we do need we do need the basic academic abilities. Um, but why spend so many years on just learning to this SAT where AI can do it much better than us right now in this moment, and we can spend our time developing other skills that are important in order to succeed and are much more important actually.
Well, I remember when I was young, my teachers told me that I would never have a calculator in my pocket. I remember like learning math and like, well, hey, it's not like you're going to have a calculator in your pocket your whole life. No, it turns
Yeah.
out I have a calculator and a supercomputer and access to all knowledge that's ever been for all time, right? Like it turns out way better than a calculator. I have this incredible supercomputer in my pocket, right? Does that mean I shouldn't learn math? No. Does that mean that I need to learn math at the same level? Again, like, did I ever need to take trigonometry? Now, my son-in-law is an engineer. He's probably going to build bridges or something one day. He needs to really understand trigonometry. I mean, that guy needs to understand it, and he needs to understand how, because it has a real world consequence for him.
Yeah.
For me, I do a lot of marketing. I do a lot of business. Like I really could have used accounting. It blows my, think about what doesn't get taught in school. That you get through school, you don't know how to use a checkbook or you don't know how to manage money. That's crazy. You do 13 years of school. Why? To get a job. For what? To earn money. But no one ever teaches you about money. That's insanity.
Yeah.
But we do, but everyone knows geometry, right? And again, not saying there's not value in geometry, and there's value in all sorts of things, but what we want to get to is those real world things. And what's funny is it's easy to learn them when we're engaged and when we have a real reason to learn it. I'm
Yeah.
playing a game with my son right now. So he earns an allowance. And if he waits a week to get his allowance, it doubles. And if he waits another week, it doubles again. But we had to cap it at two because he had done the math and he'd figured out. He's like, Dad, he's like, you're gonna owe me $1 million in like 8 weeks. I'm like, yeah, no, we're we're capping it. But he can also take his allowance out early, but in order to do that, he gets half. So he can get his and we're playing this little game, and he's like, "Why are we doing this?" I'm like, "'Cause I'm teaching you about money, because that's
Yeah.
how it gets to
Awesome.
be when you're an adult." Like, why not teach those kind of things? Why not have real world experiences? Why not figure out nutrition? Like they're at his school today, they're making different types of protein bars and talking about protein, the macronutrients, like what is protein, what are carbohydrates, what are fats, what's healthy for your body. Why not move? I mean, the traditional school system is so ridiculous. None of us would submit to sitting in a desk for 6 hours in a row, and having to walk in a line and having to hold hands or put our hands behind our back. No adult would submit to that. Why do we think that's the best way to educate a kid? That's crazy. Let them run. Like you can look at the percentage of kids who are presenting quote unquote ADHD, and I'm not saying that's not real. It is. There are real diagnoses, but also go look at the symptoms of ADHD, and they pretty much line up with what happens if you have a kid who sits down for 6 hours and can't exercise. He's going to exert those. He's he's going to be fidgety. He's going to want to move around. My son used to come home like he used to come home exploding with energy because he just had been sitting all day. He wanted to swing, he wanted to run. He comes home from Apogee School exhausted
Hmm.
because he's allowed to move, because he runs around, he can do whatever he wants. Like he gets a physical workout. Yes, he is running around with his friends. We put a step monitor on him. It's crazy. He's getting 6,000, 7,000 steps in a day in a single room classroom. How because he's just able to move around. He's able to move around outside, and he loves it. Like, that's his natural state, and he's getting smarter all the while.
Yeah.
The best part is he has no idea that he's learning. I think that's the most fun thing is because he's just following a natural process. I used to think you had to be sitting there and then learning, and then the test is what proves you learned. That's not true. I know how to hold my wife. I'm very good at it. I know exactly how she wants to be hugged. That I don't need to take a test. There's not like a test on whether I can hold. No, I know because I've put in the time and I've gotten really good at it. You can take that across any number of other skills in life. And that's the kind of, progress. We talked about college, right? Here's an interesting call that we got from an actual Apogee student calling and saying, "Hey, I need to have a private conversation with you guys. I have a situation I don't know how to handle." Remember that project I did where I was trying to learn cryptocurrencies and what they do and what? Well, I made $300,000. I don't know how to do taxes. I think I might have a tax issue. This kid had made almost 3 times what his parents make in the year
Wow.
in doing a project. That's not college. He just turned out like he really studied it. He really got good at it. He had a little bit of play money that he grew and grew and grew. And the next thing you know, he had a, mid 6-figure problem, which is a great problem to have, by the way. And he was talking to us about how do I mitigate the taxes? What do I do with this? How do I tell my parents I just made more money than they did in a year in 3 months of a project? That was a real concern for him. right? That's a real world result. We have kids who are running businesses. We have kids who get hired for six-figure jobs right out of school because why? Because they can show what they've done. Here are the websites that I'm building. Here's the marketing that I've been doing. Here is, we have Matt Boudreaux's daughter is a, I don't even think she's 16 years old. I think she's almost 15, and she's running a team of people at an equestrian center. Why? Because she's been working with horses so long. She's been doing the things that matter. Of course she can read. Of course she can do arithmetic. I mean, of course all the other stuff came, but then there's also this real world skill. I think we forget in the modern world that it used to be that at 16 years old, you were probably the head of a household. I mean,
Hmm.
there was a time that at 20, you were the backbone of every house in the economy. Right now, I'm not saying that we have to get back to all of the old world values and everything, but I am saying we're capable.
Yeah.
We are capable so much earlier than we give ourselves credit. And I think school has stunted that. We like to look at society and say, well, why are there 30-year-olds living in the basement? Why? Well, because nobody gave them the test that said they have the right now to go do the thing. But that's not how life is.
Yeah. I really want to dive into the young men and young women program that you have. I want to
Sure.
share my screen here for a minute because I want to show people the different programs. So, I was looking into the Apogee Strong Young Men, selfishly, for my own kids because I have three boys. And I'm really interested in this program specifically. And what I've noticed, and I'm going to open this for a minute.
Sure.
Um, mhm, yes. Okay, so what I've noticed, and this is actually really interesting, is because I've been thinking a lot about this lately because I come from Israel. In Israel, when we finish school at 18, everybody goes to the army. So you go
Yep.
to the army for at least 2 or 3 years. If you're a woman, you go for 2 years. If you're a man, you go for 3 years. And this is where we grow up. Right? Like we
Mhm.
were kids until age 18. 18, we go out to the army. Um, and then it's like this is like the real world. The army is the real world because we're not with our families. We come home. Some of us come home only every 2 weeks. When I was in the army, we didn't have smartphones, so I used to I could call my parents once a week and I can talk to them for 10 minutes. So it was really like throwing us into independence and dealing with, challenges and physical, challenges and not sleeping at night and, being part of a team. And when I'm looking at your curriculum for young men, I see a lot of those values, like those army values, in this curriculum. So, do you see a resemblance here, or is it me?
Well,
Um,
so think about what the army. So if for you, it came in the context of the army, right? Think about what they're trying to do is they're trying to create responsible people who can lead, and so that
Absolutely,
is
yeah,
definitely what we're doing in the young men and young women's program. Is we're trying to create responsible individuals who can lead. What you got there in Israel, what you have in Israel with this force, with this military service, is a rite of passage that most societies in the Western world are missing right now, which is basically a gap to say, hey, you were a kid. Now for you it was here's a helmet, here's a uniform. You're not a kid anymore. Now our society has kind of lost that. Now I will say that college used to be that. There was a time not that long ago when you went to college that would happen. Even now, though, college is kind of blurring this line. So what we have created in the Apogee Strong Young Men and Young Women program, yes, definitely, it's a series of rites of passage to help them to start to take ownership of their own life. All of us, right, are created by the people around us when we're young, whether that be our parents or our church or our government or our schools, or like there are adults around us as human beings because we're born completely dependent. I mean, we are born completely helpless, right? I mean, if mom just put us on the ground, we're done. We're not like giraffes where it's like, you're born and you have 2 hours to walk, and most of the giraffes make it, right? Like horses, I think they have like an hour to walk or they're in big trouble in the wild, but they all do it. We don't come out like that. We come out helpless, right? So
yeah,
when we're young, it is the community around us that shapes and creates us, right? At a point though, as an adult, we begin to be the person who shapes and creates ourselves. all of our programs that are not in the Apogee schools are about helping you to take responsibility to the next level of leadership inside yourself. You can't lead someone else if you can't lead yourself.
Hmm.
You can't lead your family if you can't lead yourself. You can't lead your community if you can't lead your family. You can't lead anything bigger than your community if you can't lead your community. Right. And being a good leader means also you can follow when you're not the leader. That's fine. It's not about like chaos. This isn't about like I'm free, I can do what I want. Well, that's great, but that isn't true. That's not how real leadership works. That's not real community. I can do what I want is childish. It's a lack of leadership, right? I can do what I want as far as I'll take responsibility for that, and I maintain the agreements that I've made with my community, and I mean, yeah, okay, but that gets complicated very quickly, and that's what our young men, young women programs are all about. They're about exposing young men and young women to powerful mentors who've done something great in their lives and giving them challenges. Each month, they're going to do one or two challenges that will move them forward into taking ownership of their own life and trying to figure out what it is they want to do, trying to figure out who it is they are and how they want to lead themselves, their family, and their communities.
Yeah, and you have some really powerful mentors here and a lot of really successful people that are backing up this program, which is very interesting to see. I was looking at some of the things that you teach here, which is mastering self-discipline, strengthening body and mind, the power of your word, and other topics. Um, why is I've noticed that most of the mentors look very strong in their bodies.
Sure.
And you also put a big emphasis on, teaching our children or having our children, teaching them the discipline of, training themselves, training their bodies themselves. So why is that? Why is that important, do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that you see inside of our mentors people who are physically impressive a lot of times because we have put such a high value on um, health and nutrition and activity, right? If you look at your fitness, it really is comprised of three things: input, output, and then your chemical well-being, right? And so we're going to teach children to manage that. Like leadership starts within, and your body is one of the biggest parts of that. Your body is a manifestation of that ability to lead or not lead, right? And so of course we put a high value on that. I don't know how I don't know how the school system, the traditional school system, has let go of that. I don't understand how anyone could say, "Oh, it doesn't matter what happens with your body." Look, I had a heart attack. I've got a tattoo here commemorating the date of my heart attack. I trust me, I know that you let your body go, you're not going to be able to lead anything,
Yeah.
right? And when you're in those weakened states, so that leadership starts with the body, it starts with the soul, it starts with the mind. It's the whole person. And to pretend that I can teach you math and I can teach you trigonometry and I can teach you social science and I can teach you history and totally leave out anything to do with your body is silly. Like that's such a fundamental part of your life. Of course, at a young age, we want to teach that. We want to emulate and mentor and show here's what a great life looks like, feels like, and tastes like. And we'd love you to experience that as young as you want to on any given level.
Yeah. So what is the difference between the young men's program and the young women's program?
Right. So for our young men's program, I've heard this quote. I don't know who said it. I should probably figure this out, but I believe it to be true. Right. Like women make boys, but it takes men to make a man. Right. So the purpose of the young men's program is to give young men other men around them to show them to exemplify leadership and show them how to become their own man. Period. Like that's what it's about. The Young Women's Program is about creating powerful leaders who know how to use their voice and to exercise a choice. Like they got a voice and a choice in the world, right? It's a little bit different. Not again, not hugely different. Those things are very similar, but you will hear a lot of, hey, being a man means this in the young men's program. And the young women's program, you're going to hear a lot of, hey, what is your thought? What is your voice? To coax the young woman out from under mom's wing, usually, and to have her own voice. We are encouraging that own voice separate from the crowd, right? With the young men, they tend to come out a little more independent and wanting to kind of, we get them to say, hey, what's good for the unit? What's good for the group? Like, hey, here's what it really means to be a man and take responsibility for you,
Mm,
for something bigger than yourself, not just yourself. For young women, we're saying, hey, who are you inside of this? And yes, of course, you're going to. Young women's group is totally women led, women run. There's no men over there. Same thing for the young men's group. It's very separate, to give them that space to kind of come into their own and find out who they are and model as far as like mentors coming in, and there is, it's a powerful model. It's the model of human learning for all time. See someone who's better than you or who's done something bigger than you, walk alongside them for a minute, see what they're doing, learn to do what they're doing.
yeah. And these are both online programs.
Sure, online programs that got like Zoom calls that happen once a week. We do meet in, so we have a family reunion, we call it, every December. This year it'll be in Austin, Texas, Round Rock, I think, Texas, north of Austin, December 5th. But we have a family reunion for everyone who's in any Apogee program, which is really fun. And yeah, and then the students develop their own. So it's not just the program that we put together. They also get a set of challenges. So each month of the program, each student is presented with 2 challenges in a certain order to help them to kind of figure out who they are. And the young leaders lead themselves. So they have their own calls. A lot of times they have their own Zoom calls away from any leadership. It's just them
Mm.
for them talking about, what it means to be a young person and how to become that man or woman that they want to be.
And this is for ages 12,
12 to
right?
18.
12 to 18. So
Yes.
is this only a 1-year program? Because I'm interested in signing my own son to
So
that do this,
it's
and he's almost 12.
So it's a 1-year program that then allows you to stay until you're 18. So you come
Okay.
in, the challenges run for 1 year, and then you can help to guide, lead, and run with us the rest of the program. So you can come if you joined when you were 12, you could stay till you're 18 if you wanted to.
Oh, that's
But it's a
incredible.
it's a 1-year series of challenges.
Got you. And what do you like from what you saw? What is a good age to start this program? What is the
Yeah,
like
it's
best
12.
age to start?
12 is basically the developmental spot where you start growing your prefrontal cortex, right? When you see that puberty, you know what I mean? We say 12, but when you see that, okay, hey, this my kid is at least 12 and they're starting to have their own independent thoughts. They're starting to try to want to figure out who they are. It's not hard to see. As a parent, you feel it
Yeah.
right away because as
Yeah.
a parent, that's when you start to be dumb, right? Like that's when you start to see that eye roll a little bit of like, well, no, you don't know everything, mom. It's really built for that moment on.
Awesome. Cool. So thank you so much, Kevin. I'm so excited about this. And I think it's incredible that you have all these options. We didn't talk about the other options, but there is also the homeschooling option for home learning.
Yep.
There is also an option for men and women. So I'm gonna send everybody to your website. I'm gonna have the link here below for them to check it out. And I really, really appreciate your time and for sharing all this amazing information with us. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And look, I just want to say if you're interested in our home education program, just go to apogeeanywhere.com. We are looking for more and more people to be a part of the solution and to become an Apogee affiliate. It's so simple to affiliate with us and to begin your own school, to be part of that solution. Because again, what we think of as school is 700,000 person institutions. We're talking about single classroom, 25 to 50 person schools. So one school could be many schools. One 1,000 person school could be 150 of the schools we're talking about that are sized so everyone gets this individual attention. So we need many, many partners. We need many people to step up and say, "Hey, I'm ready to do this, and we would love to support you in doing that. We would love nothing more than to help you figure out how to do this." Are we the only solution? No, we think we're a pretty damn good one. And that's okay. We want everyone who's doing this other way to be successful. All the different, there's lots of Montessori's, the Actons, all the different people who are getting this right. We want to see them be successful. We just have a unique way of helping people to start their own school so that they can get the benefit of this now and not in 20 years when the whole system swings this direction anyway. Like, don't wait. Like by the time the whole system swings back, your kids are going to be gone, from
Hmm.
your house. As a parent who's had 4 kids age out of the house, I still have one 10-year-old. Thank you, Liam, for keeping me young. But they leave. You got 17 summers ish. And so like there's a way to have that impact come now and not wait for the system to wake up.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you feel called to do this, definitely go and check this out. Just check this program out.